Welcome on back to Skipper. Today I'm going to do an updated tier list of the Major League Baseball teams. 5 tiers: World Series, playoffs, fun, unserious, and poverty. Let's get right into it. All right, we're going to start off with the poverty tier. The teams in here: the Nats, Pirates, Twins. That is not the Twins. That is the Tigers, A's, Royals, and the Angels. We look at the tiers here: unserious and poverty. What are the difference between the two teams? If you are an unserious baseball team for multiple years in a row, you become a poverty franchise. That's why the Nationals are here. When you trade the last couple of years, you trade the 4 or 3 best players and then let your other franchise player walk. In free agency, you become a poverty franchise. So that's why the Washington Nationals are there. Pittsburgh Pirates, there's nothing more we can say. Also, these teams are at the bottom of each of their leagues, so that kind of puts you in the poverty tier here. Pittsburgh Pirates, 44-66. O'Neal Cruz is brought up. I don't know why he was in the minors for so long when he had a full year to just totally figure things out at the major league level. So I think that is a poverty move here when you trade all the players like that. They did keep Brian Reynolds, so that was a nice little move to keep them a little serious for a while. But I heard the asking price was out of this world. The Detroit Tigers are in this because I did take their over wins, and I'm pretty sure it was 80 wins or something like that this year, and they are not even close to that. They have 43 wins, 68 losses at this point to the season. Maybe 2 of the worst contracts signed so far the previous offseason in Eduardo Rodriguez and Javier Baez. Javier Baez took strike 3 with the bat at his feet last night, which is an absolutely crazy move. The Oakland A's are here. That is self-explanatory. They made a movie on how poverty the Oakland A's are as a franchise. The Kansas City Royals, I think, should move into the fun tier a little bit here because they have a nice young core. Vinny's been called up. Nick Prado's up. Bobby Witt Jr. is a really fun player at this point in the season, but the pitching staff for the Kansas City Royals is that bad. They are in the poverty tier. And again, the Los Angeles Angels, as a team who started off hot, they have the 2 best players in baseball, 2 of the most fun players in all of baseball, and they cannot win baseball games. So that puts you in poverty. They deserve to be here. So that's what the poverty tier is going to be. We're going to break down the unserious tier with the Marlins, Red Sox, Cubs, D-backs, Rangers, Reds, and the Rockies. The difference between unserious and fun. Fun, I think, are teams that can push towards the playoffs. They can do a little run here where the city gets behind them, make a big little push, have some fun watching good baseball, and get into the playoffs. But unserious are teams I just think are absolutely cooked to this point in the season. So I'll go to the Marlins. They didn't want to call up some of their guys. They treat Jess Chisholm horribly. The general manager said she couldn't really get the guy she wanted at the deadline because of some money issues in Miami. All in all, unserious organization ever since they took the statue out of left center field. So they're going to stay here for forever pretty much and move into poverty at some point. Boston Red Sox have fucked me so many times this season gambling. Chris Sale does the most unserious move of all time, pulling a nice little sleepy Joe Biden falling off his bike, wrist surgery, end the season. The Cubs, they're in this little spot where I think they could almost be poverty at this point in the season, but they've done enough. They're okay. They kept Ian Happ, Contreras, so that was decent serious enough, but they're not going to get enough good draft picks. They're not going to get enough good prospects, and they're going to just keep a decent number of players at this point and maybe not get major league talent out of it. So that is interesting. The Cubs are unserious. The D-backs have been unserious for a long time. As long as Madison Bumgarner has a job, I think they'll be unserious. Merrill Kelly stayed. Zach Gallen stayed. So that's a serious move for the future. I'm happy for the D-backs. Alec Thomas getting some run. Dalton Varsho is a really fun player. But at this point, they're unserious. Next, we have the Texas Rangers, who spent serious money for unserious players in Marcus Semien and Corey Seager. I don't know how their records are spread, 48-61. I guess they didn't really have the pitching staff to go with those top-end players, so they kind of just chalked up this season to a loss, which is kind of tough to do for a team. And if you're a fan of that, you're not really too happy with it. So the Texas Rangers, they're unserious at this point. Cincinnati Reds are moving on the edge of fun tier for me because they've played good baseball ever since they went 3-22 to start the season. I believe they're 500. They play in a park built for ants, not baseball players again, Great American Ballpark. You hit a ton of home runs there. They did trade some guys. They got Noelvi Marte, which is great. So they made serious moves for the future, which I think is always a good thing to do for a team that is this bad. So the Cincinnati Reds, they're unserious for this season, but I like them pushing up. And then the Colorado Rockies, they are in a tier. I had said this before when we filmed this the first time and then didn't do it, but there should be a tier of like little upsets, play spoiler. The Colorado Rockies are going to be in there for teams pushing on the edge like the Padres, and the Giants are pretty far out of it at this point, but they can play a little spoiler here. So the Colorado Rockies, and again, they could be fun because they play in a place where you can hit 600-foot home runs. So maybe this is the wrong tier for the Rockies, but they're going to bring up the rear of the unserious tier. Right, this is the fun tier. We have the Orioles, Guardians, Giants, Rays, Twins, and White Sox. The difference between fun tier and the playoffs tier for me as teams kind of looking on the outside in, but again, they can push towards the playoffs. They have a chance at least. They're not unserious. The unserious teams have no chance. The fun teams definitely have a chance. And if you talk about fun in Major League Baseball the last couple of weeks, the only team you could think of is the Baltimore Orioles. Adley Rutschman's up. I don't really know how they're doing with this lineup. As a team in the AL East, as a fan of a team in the AL East as well, the Blue Jays, I wish I was cheering for a different division because the O's are a very fun team to watch at this point. Try and get into these playoffs. They're half a game out of the playoff spot at this point, right behind the Rays. So I think the O's are a very fun team. The Cleveland Guardians are the youngest team in all of Major League Baseball. I hope they call Bo Naylor up. Obviously, Josh is there as well. Franmil Reyes, they designated for Simon. He's gone out of there. But Tristan McKenzie's fun. They have a lot of fun players who are Ahmed Rosario, Andres Jimenez, who are kind of overperforming at this point in the season. I thought they stood no chance. I couldn't believe their roster construction at the start of the year. But I think they're a really fun team to watch at this point. Hand up, I don't know too much about the San Francisco Giants. 54 and 56. I think maybe they should be borderline unserious here because they're talking about getting rid of Carlos Rodon at this point, trying to take him for picks. Even he has an option for next year. So I don't watch too much Giants baseball, I'll say that. So I'll put them in the fun tier for now. Tell me where you really want them and I would redo this again because I don't really know much about the Giants. The Rays are a fun baseball team who has been severely injured the whole season. The Tampa Bay Rays, you just think of, again, a spoiler team for like the Yankees if they have to play them in the playoffs. I don't know if they have what it takes to be in the World Series with the bats so far this year. Wander Franco will be okay at some point here and kind of will him to go. I actually don't know if he'll be okay. But they'll get some bullpen arm backs. They're really good pitching staff there. So I think they can play some spoiler as well into the playoffs. And the Twins and White Sox, Twins are tied for the division lead, so they should be in the playoffs. But I think they are a very fun baseball team to watch. They made really good moves at the deadline to get better, which is a nice move to see if you're a fan of the team. And then you go to the White Sox, who are a team was largely underperformed, and it's like, what is going on here? The White Sox are 56 and 54, which is like 2 games back of the division lead as well. So that'll be a really fun central here to watch at the end of the season, who is going to win that race. We're at the playoffs tier now. These are teams I think have solidified a pretty good shot into the playoffs. They should make the playoffs. Again, there's going to be too many teams in the NL here, so they all can't make the playoffs, but I think they're definitely good enough to do it. Breaking down the Blue Jays, tough little stretch. They're an up-and-down team to this point in the season, but first wild card seed in the AL so far this season, 60 and 50, decent run differential, plus 60. I think they have no problem getting in. The Seattle Mariners, one of the longest playoff droughts in all of sports to this point, 60 and 52 as well. They are a fun baseball team when Julio Rodriguez is playing. It's too bad he's on the IL, but they have some nice little pieces there. Luis Castillo was electric again for a second straight start against the Yankees. They can play spoiler to the Yankees at some point in the playoffs. I will be a huge Seattle Mariners fan. Padres, third wild card so far in the NL to this point. Really good moves at the deadline as well. Juan Soto, you'll take him on any team that you have, so that is an awesome move for the Padres. I think they have a good pitching staff. They have what it takes to get it done. If they get Tatis back here soon, which they should, he's in, I believe, Double-A right now, San Antonio, doing his rehab stint, double, triple last night. He's going to make this team a lot of fun to watch and make it a nice little push. They're not the Dodgers still, but they are a fun team in the NL. The Cardinals largely underperformed, I'd say, to this point in the season, even though Arenado and Goldschmidt have been 2 of the best players in all of the National League. I think the pitching staff's not that strong. The bullpen's pretty good. I think they have what it takes to get into the playoffs, but as how deep they'd go, I don't think it's going to be crazy. The Phillies are one of my favorite lineups at the start of the season. Kyle Schwarber hitting leadoff is one of the coolest things of all time. They have good pitching staff. Bullpen, not so much depth, not crazy for the Phillies, but I think they're good enough to get into these playoffs, no problem. So it's 61 and 48 at this point. I think they'll end up pulling up the rear of the wild card if they get in. But I think they're good enough to get in, and they should get in. The Milwaukee Brewers, again, I think the pitching staff is so good. Woodruff, Peralta, Corbin Burns. They did trade Josh Hader, and blew a save last night for the Padres. But they made some pieces to get some guys back in that bullpen. Devin Williams is a good Major League Baseball closer, no doubt about that. So I think they have what it takes to get into the playoffs as well and be a good team. Again, pitching, if you have those three guys going, we thought we'd see it last year and they got upset by the Braves, but I think they're good enough to be in the playoffs. And lastly, we're going to get into the World Series tier. These are 5 teams that I think can get it done. They've had the depth. The Braves did it last year, obviously. So we have the Dodgers, Astros, Mets, Yankees, and the Atlanta Braves. Atlanta Braves are the only team that's in the wild card here. First wild card in the NL. They've really figured it out since a nice little hangover to start the season. They have the pitching. They have the bats. They've done it last year, so I can see them pushing towards a World Series, even though they could definitely be out in the first round if they're having to play in the wild card against the Padres, so it would be tough, but I think they can get it done, and they've shown that they have the bats. Ronald Acuna is going to turn it on at some point here. He's starting to figure it out a little bit more. Tough after that knee injury, but he's playing quick. Austin Riley, MVP candidate for sure. So I like the Braves as a potential team to get to the World Series and win it again, but because they've done it last year. The Yankees are a team that started the season who knew that they could beat them. They definitely won the first half World Series. So Yankees fans, hang the banner. That's number 28, 29, whatever that is. So congrats to you. But they have played horrible baseball here in the second half. They traded Jordan Montgomery to the St. Louis Cardinals as a fan favorite, clubhouse favorite. Tough move for them. Again, they didn't get Luis Castillo, and he shoved against them twice. They traded Jordan Montgomery, and he shoved against them. And then they got Frankie Montas, and he got shelled against the Cardinals. So tough look for the Yankees. Aaron Judge is probably the best player in baseball to this point in the season. So I think he'll will them to as far as they want to go. But I have a bunch of old guys on the team who have pretty much overperformed this whole season. So it doesn't really make sense to me that I think they can really win it. But based on what they've shown us in the first half, they're that good. But I hope they lose in hilarious fashion. New York Mets put an absolute beating on the Atlanta Braves this week. Scherzer, DeGrom, Edwin Diaz, 3 of the best arms in all of baseball going at it. And then you have Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor figuring it out with the bats. This is a really fun team to watch. I hope the New York Mets do well. I think they have a better chance than the Yankees at this point in the season to win the World Series. So that's definitely why they're in this tier. It's the right tier for them to be in. Houston Astros are a team that we see every year make these little moves, and hey, the Astros are just right back to being one of the best teams in the league. They're tied with the Yankees for the best record. They're definitely going to overpass them, I think, here and be the number 1 seed in the AL going into the playoffs. Kyle Tucker's great, Jeremy Pena, all those guys, Altuve again, they just figure out a way. Good pitching staff. They almost had too many starting pitchers. They figured out Will Smith from the Braves, too. They almost had too many starting pitchers that they had to trade some. Lance McCullers is coming back. That can help him out, get some innings here. Justin Verlander has been one of the best pitchers in the AL all season. So the Houston Astros are there once again. It's like this point of the season, you can put them down at the start of the year, just say, I don't think the Astros are going to be that great. But with how mediocre the division's been over the last couple of years, makes total sense to see the Astros here again. And then finally, the best team in baseball for me, the Dodgers, 76-33. They definitely have an NL wildcard team, but again, they lose in hilarious fashion every single season in the playoffs. That isn't a Mickey Mouse playoff format. So we'll see if they can figure it out. Freddie Freeman has the most hits in baseball. Trey Turner's awesome. And then they should be getting a lot of help off the IL. If Dustin May comes back and throws some innings, Buehler as well. They should be destined to be in the World Series, at least if not win it. So those are the tiers, breaking it down. Let me know which teams you liked in all these tiers, what I did wrong here. Thank you for subscribing. Join the Discord, and I will see you guys must add at the end of the week.